Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hivemind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. I will continue to say it, folks, it is not over. The final bastion of hope, the last stand in the 2020 election, is only a couple days away, less than a week at this point. And if you think for 1 second that President Donald Trump and his team and his family don't have a plan, then you're just not paying attention, folks. Things are getting real serious. Over 100 GOP lawmakers are now set to contest the results, and that's just what we know publicly. And of course, we know the results only need to be challenged in a few key states to either deprive Joe Biden of 270 or push Trump above 270. Each scenario works. The president doesn't even need to get 270. The plan has always been, when it comes to House delegation, to deprive Joe of 270, sending it into a vote. And now I know a lot of people are losing faith, and I will still continue to say that it is an uphill battle, and it depends on establishment neocon GOPers, which I don't exactly have too much faith in. But there are a couple interesting dynamics here which could lead to some surprising results and legitimately 4 more years of President Donald Trump. It's not over until we see what happens in the House on January 6th, and things are getting very, very serious. In fact, this thing might actually be happening. So let me update you guys on everything. Let's talk about the 100 plus GOPers, and then I want to show you actually what the Trump team themselves are saying. They laid out the plan real clean, and their focus right now isn't even within the lawsuits, which is why we haven't heard much from Rudy Giuliani or anybody else. Their plan is directly within Congress and the Senate. And so we got a lot to get into, of course, but before we do, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. Of course, YouTube preventing our ability to grow. So share the video, make sure you're subbed with notifications on, and with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. All right, so here's the report straight from the Gateway Pundit. Report: 100 plus GOP lawmakers may vote against election on January 6th. Anti-Trump skunk Adam Kinzinger went on the Bulwark podcast on Wednesday to talk with Never Trumper Charlie Sykes. The two are committed anti-Trumpers. They both live for the golden age of republicanism with endless foreign wars and trade agreements that benefit China. During their conversation, Kinzinger told Sykes he expects 100 GOP lawmakers to vote against the election. Kinzinger says this is a bad thing. And so if Never Trumpers are saying that 100 plus lawmakers are going to vote against this thing, then who knows, it might be 150. And here is the interesting dynamic for the GOP. As much as these neocons want to end Trumpism and they want to bring the Republican Party back to republicanism of old, as stated by the Gateway Pundit, even though that's what they want, they're not necessarily stupid, and they know what supporting bad policy or being on the wrong side for your constituents does come the next election cycle. You might get primaried. And so check this out from Floridian Press, which is talking about the 100 plus GOPers, stated by Kinzinger. Much has been said over whether or not Republicans should challenge the results or welcome a new administration, and the conversation has only further divided Americans. However, in the long run, some commentators believe that there should be no question about it regarding Republicans. When asked if Republican lawmakers should contest the vote, the Floridian's publisher Javier Manjarres explained that not doing so would bring its repercussions. Any Republican legislature that does not support President Donald Trump on January 6th can expect to be primary challenged during their re-election, expressed Manjarres. Trump's wrath will be upon them, and this is quite significant. We know exactly what happened to incumbents who went on an anti-Trump crusade during the whole impeachment charade. A lot of them got primaried and got taken out of office. We know exactly what happened to those who got hit with the label of being anti-police and wanting to defund the police. They lost their toss-up election. And so what do you think is going to happen to establishment GOP dinosaurs who betrayed their constituents and what they wanted come the next election cycle? Well, they're either going to lose to a Democrat or they're going to lose to a Republican primary challenger. And this is why I think we might see a whole lot of them who may not be saying it publicly right now because they just don't want to be within the media cycle, like Josh Hawley, but who will vote a certain way when push comes to shove. And that's a very interesting dynamic that we're going to have to wait and see how it plays out come January 6th. And speaking of January 6th, Trump's team, or by extension, the Trump family in Lara Trump, said this very recently on Dr. Gina's show. Check this out. Here's the plan on January 6th.
Is there still hope? Absolutely there is, because the reality is the founders of this country set up this process for a time such as this. So what will happen on January 6th is that it is a joint session of Congress, and all of the electoral votes have now been sent to Washington, D.C. They will be opened by Vice President Mike Pence and read aloud for the joint session of Congress. And if 2 House members object to the votes for Joe Biden, just 2, then everybody takes a break. They split up, the Senate and the House divide. they go debate, and then they ultimately have to vote to decide the outcome of this election. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Each senator gets one vote. Now, we know, we just talked about how important it is to hold the majority in the Senate, but we do right now have the majority in the Senate. And don't forget, the vice president also counts as a Senate vote.
Right.
So Senate gets one vote. And then as far as the House is concerned, it is each delegation. So that doesn't mean that each House member gets a vote. That means each delegation, so each state ultimately gets a vote. Well, what's really interesting about this, Dr. Gina, the Republicans are in control of 30 of those votes. The Democrats are in control of only 20. If for whatever reason they decide they will not certify this for Joe Biden and they vote for Donald Trump, then guess what? Donald Trump remains president of the United States for the next 4 years.
And so it's very clearly laid out there, folks. It's not exactly complicated. I mean, there's some added layers, but we've been talking about this for a while. And the really important thing here, the relevant point that she brought up here, which I actually wasn't even aware of personally, that only 2 Republicans need to contest the results for it to go into debate. And then, of course, it's going to be potentially voted on. That vote may swing some of these states. One of them that I really wouldn't be surprised, or actually 2 of them, would be Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. And that's a whole lot of electoral votes taken out of the Biden column potentially if Republicans vote against. In fact, just those 2 states would bring Biden close to dropping under 270. And we know the arguments, the merit based on the Constitution being violated within the voting process in those states is very, very strong with the 2 lawsuits that we covered. One lawsuit in Wisconsin talking about the Democrat Party abusing the indefinitely confined definition to secure more mail-in ballots in an unrequested manner without photo ID required. And in Pennsylvania, of course, subverting the state legislature to change the rules of the election and just doing it straight through the courts. These are arguments which have legal basis and have legal precedent, of course, with the Kavanaugh decision that we've covered many times. And so look, things are going to get real interesting here. And like I told you guys, if you think the president doesn't have a plan, you're fooling yourself. If you think the president being as quiet as he has been and not unleashing in pardons continuously after his little spree from about a week ago, if you think that's not a sign that they're preparing to do something big on January 6th, then you're a little bit confused. And here's a little story that hints at that exact notion. Trump and Melania fly back to DC today and skip their $1,000 a head Mar-a-Lago New Year's Eve party as Mitch shoots down $2,000 stimulus checks and Senate Republicans prepare to challenge Biden's win. And so the president was just in Florida planning on celebrating New Year's, and he just scrapped it and is going right back to Washington. Speculation is it's either about the $2,000 stimulus checks and going after Mitch McConnell, or it's about preparing for January 6th. I'd assume maybe both. And speaking of Mitch McConnell, once again, Mitch McConnell blasts $2,000 coof checks as, quote, socialism for rich people, and says money would end up in high-earning households as he blocks vote again and has a dig at, quote, very wrong Bernie. Socialism for the rich, I find that a little bit rich. How about you do your job in government and ensure that the money gets in the right hands? Yeah, right. I mean, we've seen what happened with business loans and bailouts. And how about, Mitch, you stop focusing on the $2,000 checks for Americans and start focusing on the pork and wasteful spending within the bill itself. You know, Republicans are supposed to be conservative fiscally, but it seems as though they only care about being fiscally responsible and fiscally conservative when it comes to money that would benefit Americans, not so much when it comes to money that benefits foreign nations and subsidizing programs abroad. The swamp must be drained, folks, and of course it starts in the primary season. So get involved and make sure these establishment GOP neocons, these GOP dinosaurs, are voted out one by one as the years go by. But that's what I got for you on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned from non-subscribers, so support me and of course support other independent political commentators out there. So that's the video. I gotta get back to work now. There's a whole lot of work that needs to be done on a daily basis. You guys know it's a daily gig, no days off. So I'm gonna get to that. I wanna thank you for watching and I'll see you on the next one.